not only do we find a way to float on top of the water and do it well enough to where we could actually get somewhere, right? For example, think about the oars. Right? Think of all the guys pulling the oars back in the day. They didn't have to do that on land. Or an oar wasn't a thing. They invented it because it's exactly what you're talking about, right? They invented it for that.
Do you think they got in the boat and then they're like, oh, we probably need something to propel us?
What are we supposed to do?
Because that's what we do, me and you. We don't always think ahead. We just jump in the boat.
Just jump in.
Welcome back to the show. There's no telling where we'll go. So come and share a laugh on the Imp And Skizz podcast.
We're going into pushing the envelope today. And this is something that's near and dear to me because I like the idea of what pushing the envelope means.
Yeah.
And
did you used to have something like in your email footer that said like, nothing's been done until the first time it's ever been done. Something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's kind of the same. Like you've always had that statement made in every email. I remember when I worked with you that every time I was like, that's really cool.
And people ask me like, where's that from? I'm like, that's from me, dude. That's my
That
thing.
was yours.
Yeah, 100%.
Nothing's ever been done until the first time it was done.
And the reason I said that is because there's so many people like to, somebody makes a recommendation like, well, that's never been done. It's like, nothing's ever been done until the first time it was done.
Yeah.
And that's where the energy of pushing the envelope comes from, right? Which is kind of, we should take a moment and talk, hey, stick around. Every time I look this way, I look up. Stick around because we have a big announcement at the end that you're going to, you want to.
Yeah, you won't want to miss it.
Yeah, don't miss that. So
you miss it, you're going to be lost after today. So stick around. We're going to announce it at the end.
And it's kind of tied to what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely is.
But I think about pushing the envelope. I want to get your take on this, but I think about pushing the envelope and why it's so important to me. And I believe I don't know if idiom is the right, if it's considered an idiom, like, the whole 9 yards and stuff like that. But this is something to where I believe it has like an aeronautical history to it. And it had some sort of basis of this vessel is built for these parameters. And when you are going beyond those parameters, you're pushing the envelope, right? And now I'm filling in some blanks, but I believe there's a part of the vessel that's like called the envelope, or we refer to as to envelop something. I really am filling in some blanks here, but the premise being that while the idiom goes back to aeronautical speech, it evolved into everyday life. But the energy of what it is to push the envelope, I believe, has been since the dawn of man.
Oh,
right? Yeah. It's something that we've always leaned into.
Yeah, I think the definition is just to exceed what we think is possible. Yeah. Like that's the definition of push the envelope, right? And like you said, like you go back to the dawn of man, the idea of like cavemen having wheels, right? Or bowls, these were things that somebody had to dream up, and we've been doing that as a species since the age of the dawn of man, or even prehistoric, right? So yeah, we were talking before we even started this podcast about certain things that we could talk about during this, and you kind of mentioned like you felt like humans are unique in the way that as humans, like we continue to like do that, where you don't see a lot of other species really changing over the course of time and pushing beyond what they believe is their limits.
And it's not to suggest that evolution isn't a reality in other species and stuff, because it is. But for the most part, the great white, he's doing what he's been doing the whole time. You know what I mean? They're just doing the same old stuff. Gorillas are doing the same old stuff.
Yeah, they haven't invented vehicles that swim for them.
They haven't. No, they haven't. And they're not. Yeah, and that's why they're not fat,
Why'd you look at me when you said that?
Oh, I looked at both of us. No, but think about, you go back to, because you're right, you talk about the wheel and stuff like that, and that's true. That's invention, and that's good. But pushing the envelope also has a certain degree of risk to it, and that's where it came from, I believe. And we find ourselves in a space to where we use it in everyday life. And we're going to get into some of those stories in regards to what are you doing to push the envelope? What do I do every day? And items like that. But go back in time to, the first boats, if you will, right? I look at because you just went to the Kennedy Center, not too long ago.
Kennedy Space Center.
Kennedy Space Center. And you got to, this is NASA's, headquarters, if you will. And you got to see, because I was there, I was like, dude, please go do this.
I went because of you. You had just done a vacation as well. You went and saw it and it blew your mind. And I was a little worried because when you came back, you were like, you have to go do this. And it, when somebody hypes something up, you wonder like, oh, am I going to get there? And is it going to live up to the hype or whatever? So I had that in my mind the entire time. Me and my family went on this vacation and went to see the Kennedy Space Center. And I got to tell you, like, it lived up to all the expectations that you had said. Like, this place is amazing. I'm not like totally into the whole space travel thing. Like, I've not geeked out about it, if you will, until I got there. And you start to just actually see what they were able to accomplish. And like Kennedy, it's called Kennedy Space Center because President Kennedy was the one that announced, we're going to do this. Like the US, we're going to travel to space. We're going to put a man on the moon. And so it was like his speech. And watching that speech made me realize he's not doing this because there's something beneficial, economically or whatever, about landing on the moon. He's doing this because as a species, we need this. Like, we need hope, and we need to explore and push our limits so that we have something to bond together about. And I think it was more about that, because the idea of space travel has been debated for my entire life, because we pump up a lot of money into it. The government does, right? And so it's like, a lot of people wonder, is it worth it? And after what I saw at the Kennedy Space Center, I'd say absolutely. Because it is us as humans pushing the envelope. And without that, we might not have all these things we enjoy today. Like, they talk about spin-offs. I was on the bus tour, and the guy driving the bus decided to forget the video that plays on the monitor. I'm going to tell people what they really need to hear. And that is that because of space exploration programs like NASA, and there's another private one, Blue Orbit, and Elon Musk's, SpaceX, right? And there's lots of, and around the world too, there's space programs. But because of all these programs, they've invented things that would have never been thought of. Right? You had LASIK surgery, right?
Yes.
Invented by NASA.
Was it really?
It initially was to help the shuttles dock in space, because they had to have precision in cameras to the below millimeters and 4,000 times a minute be able to capture the exact measurements of what they were doing. They were able to take that technology that they were using for docking spaceships and apply it to LASIK surgery.
I had no idea.
And so they're tracking your eye movements at 4,000 times a second or whatever to make sure they have the precision to do the laser shaping of your eyes or whatever. So like not little things, that's a big thing, right? But cell phones, GPS technology, the Tempur-Pedic mattresses, the foam mattresses, like all that stuff came from NASA or programs like NASA, because they needed that stuff. So what they did was they created a situation where they have a new need for something that's never been thought of before, because we're doing something we've never done before. They
put themselves in a space to where they discovered new needs, right? And
space, pun intended.
Necessity breeds innovation. And
yes,
I'm so jealous, because I loved the space. I loved Kennedy Space Center. I did not have the same experience you did. Like you told me the spin-off stuff. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, I think spin-off, I think TV show spin-offs. I'm like, was there a NASA show or something? And that's so you started telling me about all these things, and you didn't mention the LASIK part. That's fascinating to me. But and I mean, that go back way before NASA, when we had never traveled the ocean, right? And I mean, the ocean must have been equally as daunting as space is to us. You didn't stand and look over the ocean and be like, look, there's another continent over there. You were just like, what is that? What's out there? And the people who first created something to even float and then said, I'm going to go check this out, and they never came back. And then somebody was like, maybe I'll come back. And they didn't either. And then somebody was like, then somebody came back and said, you're not going to believe what I saw. Like, this is mankind has some sort of weird, and it's not all of us, because I don't think I'm brave enough for this, but mankind has some sort of weird commitment to bettering mankind. I don't know if it's really that reductive, but it's something to it, to where some people are like, I'm put here to bring us to the next step, whatever it is. Elon Musk is one of those people. He's known for the longest time, I will be part of getting us on Mars. Like, this has been something he's been driving for some time now. And not only that, but look what he did with space travel in general, the re-landing of the boosters. Right. Well, when he first did, like, the way he explained it was, can you imagine if every time, like, you took a flight, they just threw away the 747? You know what I mean? That was his thing.
Yeah.
And so the first time he had those boosters land, I don't know if you've ever seen all the montage of all the failed missions before that. Yeah. It was like, whoa, failure is good. We talked about this. Yeah. That's a whole lot of good, you know, because they failed over and over and over again. And I was at work and I watched the landing of those boosters live, and it shocked me so deeply that I was like, I know that I'm not being duped here, but how is this real? This is way too cool. Yeah. So even with space travel that had already been proven, even he pushed the envelope and brought himself to a space to where he made it far more realistic for us to grow beyond anything we could have imagined. So what's next?
Right.
Ugh. I can't even.
Yeah. It almost gives you chills thinking, you know, what we've done as a species from the dawn of man is actually super incredible.
Yeah.
And it feels exponential too. Like, you know, we started with bowls and wheels, and now we're traveling to space and doing incredible feats that you would never think of. Like, hundreds of years ago, who would have thought to, like, go to space? Like,
I can't get up there. You know what I mean? Like, but we found a way to get up there. And so now, and think about the fact that, like, I don't think people really, I think a lot of people, have you ever seen those graphs that give you a comparison of here's the sun, and then here's where Mercury would be, and then here's Venus, and then here's Earth, and then here's Mars, and here's Jupiter, and it's way further, right? You get this, like...
I was sitting here wondering, like, are you using that acronym thing to remember the order of the planets?
I am.
Because I forgot it.
I
well done.
But I had to change it because it used to be my very educated mother just served us 9 pizzas, but now Pluto apparently is no longer a planet.
Well, I thought it was no longer a planet, and then it was a planet again, and
that's just people not agreeing. I don't know. I don't care.
People just don't like pizza? I mean, come on.
Now I forget, whatever. Anyways, so...
We digress.
Yeah, you do this, and it's like, I'm going to mess up this ratio, right? But the premise being that those first two, like, if this microphone was the mic, then here's, so Mercury, and then Venus, and then here's Earth, and then, like, you get to, like, Jupiter, and it would be, like, 1,000 feet that way or something. Like, it's ridiculous, right? And then you get to, like, when you finally get to Neptune, it's like, it's like several miles away.
The planets exponentially get further from each other.
It's ridiculous, and that's just our solar system.
That's just our galaxy.
Yeah. That's just our solar system. It's our little bubble. So even though the fact that we've found a way to get into space, are we going to get beyond? Are we going to get beyond Neptune? I'm going to say without question, and it sounds not in my lifetime, but without question, it's going to happen.
Because mankind will continue to push the envelope.
They're going to find a way, dude.
Because that's what we do.
Yeah, that's what, dude. Not only do we find a way to float on top of the water and do it well enough to where we could actually get somewhere, right? For example, think about the oars, right? Think of all the guys pulling the oars back in the day. They didn't have to do that on land. An oar wasn't a thing. They invented it because exactly what you're talking about, right? They invented it for that.
Do you think they got in the boat and then they're like, oh, we probably need something to propel us?
What are we supposed to do?
Because that's what we do, me and you. You know, like we don't always think ahead. We just jump in the boat.
Jump in.
And then, because we talked about this, What's Stopping You podcast, which by the way was one of my favorite podcasts that we've done so far, and we've had a lot of good feedback on it. But like that's how our style has always been. Like we just jump in, and then we're like, oh, we didn't think of this, but. You know, we learned from it.
Yeah.
And again, at the end of this podcast, we're going to talk a little bit more about a scenario where that has happened to us very recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wonder, like, if those people actually jumped in without the oars. The other thing you mentioned, boat. So I just got off a big vacation, right?
Yeah.
We record the last 3 podcasts before this one were done in one day. We recorded all 3 podcasts in one day. And I got some flack for not changing my shirt, but that's fine. But so I went on vacation with my family, been gone. I just got back. We went on a cruise ship. Now I know we've been on a cruise ship together before, and I know you've been on a few without me as well. And it's still, when I walk up to the cruise ship to get on the boat the day it's going to take off, I always just look up at it and am like, how?
Yeah.
How has somebody figured out how to take tons and tons of steel, build a city? Basically, it's like a miniature city. It's like a Vegas resort, you know, with as many hotel rooms and bars and there were ice skating rinks and amphitheaters and swimming pools and water parks and all this stuff on a boat, and somehow it floats and travels thousands and thousands of miles. Like,
I know
how
it's unreal.
How what we've done as a species is just absolutely incredible.
Think about this. This whole story I gave about, are we going to get beyond Neptune? And I was like, yes, of course we are, because that's what we're going to end up doing. When we first had our first boats and they were floating, and the whole thing about the oar, like they all stood on the boat. Obviously, we don't know how this worked.
Right.
I feel like you're right. They stood there like, what do we do?
Yeah.
And then one guy stuck his hand and he's like, guys, look, everybody do this. And he just starts paddling with his hand, right? So they were like, oh, I'll make a wood stick, let's do it together. And they got something going. And I doubt anybody said this, but imagine back then if somebody had said, you know what's going to happen one day? This boat is going to be massive, and there's going to be over 1,000 people on it, and they're going to serve dinners, there's going to be entertainment, and somebody's going to be like, you're out of your mind. What are you talking about? It's going to be like 13 stories high. Like, no, it's not. What are you doing? No, we could barely balance on this little thing we got. But here we are. You know, and not only that, but imagine what they probably never said was, we're going to actually go in the water. We're going to go nice and deep. We're going to explore down there. This happens because mankind tries to get, we want to get comfortable, but we don't want to be comfortable too long. You know what I mean? We're not a stale species. We want to, and we make a lot of blunders on the way, but we're not a stale species. We want to see what else is out there. I
think every generation wants to feel like their generation made progress in the evolution of humankind. Yeah. Right.
I agree with that.
I think that's what our goal is.
Or at least people from the generation. Some people,
Yeah. Maybe not everybody, but like I think that we all want to feel like we've advanced, you know, because otherwise you got like the idiocracy syndrome and you're going backwards. And we want to make sure that that's not going to happen, you know, to the best of our abilities. But I think that's the drive, right? That's the same kind of drive like I put into my YouTube channel. You know what I mean? Like I try to take that idea of what's the next thing, you know, that people are going to want, right? Or that people are going to need. Because like you said, it's necessity is what drives creation, and not just like in technical space, like landing on the moon and stuff, but can also be applied to like everyday life. Like you're still working at a tech job, and I'm sure you're doing things in your job that's kind of the same way, where you're looking to advance the status quo to the next step, because like that's where we get ultimately like intrinsically turn our satisfaction from, is knowing that we've done something. I remember one of my favorite projects I ever worked on when I was at the same company was I combined multiple systems that people were using into one and simplified their workflow. And so that a job that used to take 10 minutes now took like 2, you know? And so I just knew at the end of the day, I had that satisfaction knowing I created something that made somebody's life better. And I think that ultimately that's like the goal of humankind, is to make our lives better, like you said, to get comfortable but not stay there, because what's the next thing to get even more comfortable? Right.
And you had to get uncomfortable to do that. You had to, if you had done poorly on that task, then you would have wasted a lot of time and had nothing to show for it, and you would have looked very bad. So that was the risk that you took, right? I did something similar earlier in my career there, where I was brand new. So the company is a global company, and it's all, you know, that's what it is. We're in many different countries, and we have manufacturing all over the place, and there's specialists all over the world, and there's sometimes somebody on the other side of the planet that needs to be on this side of the planet for whatever reason. And when I was learning the company, I was a younger kid at the time, I was learning the company, and they said, there's like 1 or 2 people that know what needs to be done here. And I asked them, so what needs to happen? Like, how does that work? They said, well, they fly them over here. Sometimes it takes a week or 2 weeks. And while that's happening, we're losing a lot of revenue because this system's broken. And I couldn't get my head wrapped around it. I'm like, what is we have cameras, you know that, right? Just have them look, you know, and they're like, oh, it's never going to happen. And I'm like, what does that mean? Because on the manufacturing floor, there's from an intellectual property standpoint, that's as high as it gets, right? Like you can work in the company, you still can't go in. Like it's one of those things, like the amount of scrutiny that one person undergoes in order to get inside manufacturing just on the floor. And even in the floor has its own areas you can't get in.
Yeah.
So they said, it's laughable, the notion of there being a camera. And that's when I was like, that's what I'm going to fix. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to find a way to fix that, because they said that these people were being uprooted from their jobs. Their lives. Mm-hmm. And they're like, it doesn't matter when you hold this position. I don't care what's going on in your life. Pack your bag. You need to get to the other side. And so I was like, I'm going to find a way to do this. I'm going to find a way. And oh goodness, dude, it was an uphill battle. And it was me and one of our buddies. Mm-hmm. And we just dug in and I remember we sat down and I was like, here's the deal. We're not giving up until this exists. And I don't care how many people have to fight this. We're going to fix this problem. If it takes 2 days to a week to fix something that should have taken 5 minutes, imagine what that's going to mean to manufacturing.
Right.
So all I did was I just kind of partnered with telemedicine and found a way to take what they do and tailor make it for manufacturing. And then we brought it in, and the amount of scrutiny I was under was, I can't even, I'm not going to go into it, but the amount of times my job was threatened. One person had the gall to say this could result in jail time. I'm like, you're out of your mind. He's like, this could result in jail time, dude. And I'm like, no, it's not. Just relax. So we got it. We just worked enough pieces so that we get a secure way. And what we ended up creating was like an unhackable way to actually get video going on. So we got ourselves into a space to where there was an issue. And they're like, but there's some new technology in the factory that some dude made. Go figure it out. And so they wheeled over this thing, and it had all the right protocols, and they fired it up. And the specialist, who was over in, I'm just going to say it was over in Israel at the time, stepped up to this thing. He said, how is this happening? It doesn't matter. Move the camera this way. Go to the left. You have a light leak. Like, he did it like this. Nobody could figure out this problem. He did it like this. And I asked him, I said, how long would you have had this problem before you made the decision to fly him over? They're like, probably another 30 days. I'm like, oh my goodness gracious. And it wasn't a small, it's a very
like losing money every minute.
Yes.
Because of the
problem. Yes, because you know how manufacturing works, right? And it was a huge deal. And I was like, okay, that is pushing the envelope. I risked a lot to get there, but I brought manufacturing to the next level of collaboration. You know what I mean? In regards to, they never ever, and that was probably when I came up with that phrase, because I kept saying, we don't do it like this. There's never been cameras in the factory ever. And I was like, nothing's ever been done till the first time it's been done. Yeah. Just do it. Just get it done.
It is interesting though, because like you said, you were fought kind of along the way too, because there is that, there was a big culture at this place of, this is the way we do it.
Yes.
Right. And so when you had people like me and you who like pushing the envelope and like seeing how we can enhance things and further advance the company, we were fought. And we had to push through a barrier of people wanting to shut us down.
Yep. And
so like had to learn to just have that kind of like tenacity and drive to get through all that kind of corporate garbage.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. Like these people just, we've been doing it this way for 20 years. It works. Why change it?
Yeah.
Like there's way too many of those people that are just like stuck in the mud.
Yep.
And there may be some listeners too that have that as well, and maybe this would be a good chance to think about whether or not you're one of those people.
Well, yeah, well, and I'm going to double down on that, because I think that I don't think people are, some people are naturally like that. I'll get with you on that, but I think that some people are kind of beat into that position. You're looking at one of them right now. So that I did that for.
Well, it gets tiring.
I did it.
It gets tiring, dude, having to fight to make change.
Yes,
right.
A couple years ago, right? It was like, I've done this a handful of times for our business, but a couple of years ago, I started on a new endeavor, and it was actually about 4 years ago, and I started a new endeavor in regards to augmented reality, mixed reality. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to integrate it into our everyday operations in a specific part of the factory. And the point being, I don't need to go into details, but the bottom line is sometimes a problem occurs and there's only one type of person that can do it. And I was like, we can get around this. With the right augmented reality, it'll just tell anybody who doesn't know anything on how to solve this problem, right? And it sounds ridiculous, but this is something that we can do. I'm very confident in this. So I started looking into it, started putting some stuff together, got the right developers in place. And the headgear back in the day was like a giant beach ball on my head, right? Now, I know that, I mean, this is 4 years ago, but I mean, like true, like augmented reality, it was like a $20,000 piece. It was so big. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, it's not going to be like this, but we got to start somewhere. We got to get our processes at our feet. And my boss was like giving me a lot of static for it. And I love the dude. I really do. He's not my boss anymore. I like the guy a lot. And he was giving me a lot of static for it. He's like, what are you doing? This is never going to go anywhere. And I was like, dude, you gotta just trust me on this. Okay. Like what had happened was I wrote an abstract and I didn't win the abstract, but the person who was like the big decision maker said, yeah, this is not going to win, but I want you to fund whatever this guy wants. It was weird. They were like, this is like a different competition, but that just whatever he wants. So I got the funding I wanted, did what I needed to do. And I just got static. And I got to a point to where I was with my boss. Here I am. Here's the risk factor. I was like, what is it that you're asking me to do that I'm not doing? Because if you can tell me what I'm not doing that you're asking me to do, I'll stop doing this project. Like we got in an argument and he's like, well, I guess nothing. And so I just kept going with it. And he's like, but it's too, and everybody was like, it's too bulky. It's too expensive. It's too slow. I'm like, all of that is going to improve. It's going to get cheaper. It's going to get faster. It's going to get lighter. Just trust me on this.
Yeah,
it's going to get.
They just released a new one.
Yes.
Meta did, and it's like, yeah, okay, now we're getting in that space.
Exactly.
Where they're like definitely going to like, yeah, eventually we're just gonna have contact lenses in our eyes.
So in the factory, you have to wear protective eyewear, and I'm like, it's going to be down to a visor in the future. Right. And they're like, it's not going to. I'm like, the answer is yes. That's where it's going. It's going to get there. I know it's big and bulky now, and it's expensive, but it's going to be so cheap that it's going to be almost disposable, and it's going to be something just protective eyewear that when it's on there. I said, imagine this world to where everybody in the factory is wearing these because they have to anyways, and all of a sudden there's an actual emergency. Right. And people have to get out. You know how big those factories are. Imagine if it just paints the ground, follow the blue line and you're out. Right. Like this, like that's just a small little example. It's a microcosm example. Yeah. And so we fought and I kept going. We actually did a pretty good pilot. It was actually really, really neat. We can talk about it later, but did a good pilot and it was well received, but it was still too bulky and whatever. I said, guys, just get the teams in place. I need people who can develop this. I need people who can storyboard this. That's it. Get it in place because when the technology is ready, we need to be ready. Right. You know, and so I was fought and I wasn't strong enough and I started to get really tired. Yeah. And I finally said, okay, sunset it. I don't care. Like I'm becoming a grumpy old man. And so I stopped. And it was like 2 months ago, the head article on our main page was about augmented reality in the factory.
Really?
Yeah.
Somebody else picked it up?
Somebody else picked it up, yeah. Wow. And, which is good, which is wonderful, by the way. And my old boss sent it to me and said, you were just too early. And I was like, come on, dude. You know what I mean? And my response was always. As in, that's the only way you can do it. You like, what do you want me to do? You want me to wait until it's reality and our competitors have mastered it and we can say, okay, let's have a talk? Right. Like, get on it.
Yeah. Oh, no, you wait, you have the idea, you wait, somebody else does it, and then you just say, that was my idea.
Yeah.
That's satisfying.
All you gotta do. Yeah, right? Just say that. No, it was so frustrating because I was like, I don't know, but that's what I'm saying. The old me would have done what I did with the original stuff. And I would have been like, well, you know, if you want to fire me, fire me. Do what you want to do. This is what my company needs. I'm doing this. Yeah. But I just got really tired and I was like, okay, I'll shut it down. I don't care.
Yeah. I get that. I think that, you know, just every once in a while, we kind of need that kick in the pants of not being complacent. Right. And realizing that we can do better, be better, make better things, you know, if we just don't get too comfortable and say, I'm happy with everything the way it is. Yeah. You know, and that kind of goes into a lot of our podcast topics so far have had that kind of undertone to them of like, this is hopefully somewhat inspiring, these conversations to those people that have gotten in that space, that have given up the fight, you know, as a reminder of like, this is actually kind of in our DNA, you know what I mean? Like mankind, humans are kind of pre-wired to want to make things better and explore things and learn things, you know. Like for me, I love learning things. So like I said, I wasn't really like into the whole space travel thing. Like it never really like it didn't dawn on me just like how incredible it was until I was there in person. And now I'm just like, wow, you know, like I loved that experience because it was something new and something I hadn't really dove into before until I was there. And now I want to like start watching documentaries and listening to podcasts and stuff about, you know, space exploration. You know, we almost had a chance to see the Artemis launch. It was supposed to launch.
I've been
we were
jelly.
literally in Cape Canaveral the day it was supposed to launch.
They scrapped it.
But they scrapped it.
Yeah.
And we
scrubbed.
Scrub.
That's
the launch.
Term. Scrub it.
Some kind of leak or the hurricane. I don't know. Anyway, we were super disappointed we didn't get to see that, because that'd be an incredible experience, to the point now that I'm like, if there ever was a launch scheduled that was like most likely going to happen, like maybe I'd think about actually going and trying to see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like now I'm like that jazzed about the whole idea of space travel. But
I would love to see it. And seeing that first was Apollo was the first one, like all the different chambers, like you went into that big hangar where it was above you.
Yeah.
Right. Go back in time to when they were just making it and trying to, how are we going to do this? We got to get through this atmosphere. Then we got to separate. And then that booster kicks off. Imagine being the person in the capsule, like, I really hope this goes well.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, a few times it didn't.
I know.
But I think the first rocket they ever launched into space was actually just a ballistic missile that they got from the military.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
No human on board, but they just shot it up and to see if they could get out of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So, you start somewhere. Like there's a message there, like the guys that jumped in the boat without the oars. Well, we're kind of guessing, but you start somewhere,
Well, look how many people lost their lives trying to create flight.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like all human. Imagine if I had to guess back before we ever flew, out of 100 people, how many thought that we're never going to fly? Was probably 99 of them.
Yeah.
Right. So there's that one person who's like, no, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And you look back at like, was it, who was it, man? I think it was Da Vinci is the one who was able to recognize that the air, it's just the ocean. It's just not as dense. You know what I mean? So he would see like fish. So I might be wrong about it being Da Vinci, but it may have been Galileo. I don't know. But he was able to see like the way that fish would swim, and they could swim up and down. And he would look at birds and be like, it's just an ocean. We just have to learn how to use it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
We don't feel it because it's like it's air. You know what I mean? But you go fast enough and you stick your hand out the window. You're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
This is a point where I wish my memory was better, because like I like Willy Wonka, right? And so there was like, we are the dreamers, the music makers. Remember that quote from Willy Wonka?
Yes, but no, I don't remember. But I know.
Yeah. And so like that was Willy Wonka's way of saying like this is us. Like this is what we do as a species, is we dream up new ways to live,
Mm-hmm.
And so speaking of Willy Wonka, like we were talking about real things back a little bit, pushing the envelope. I wanted to kind of tie in like we talked about like our work environment and how we push the envelope there, but I know a lot of people listening to this podcast also are very interested in our content creation side of our lives, right?
And is there such a thing as pushing the envelope in content creation?
Exactly. That's a very like loaded and big question in itself. And so I wanted to see if I could figure out a way, when we talked about this being a topic of can I talk about something in the content creation space where I might have been pushing the envelope. And I was thinking back to season 8 of Hermitcraft, when I decided to embrace Willy Wonka. I wanted to build the fact. The main thing was I just was like really into Willy Wonka. It was an anniversary for it, and the idea of building the factory seemed like a really cool feat to accomplish in Minecraft. Mm-hmm. And lore in like the Minecraft space was becoming more popular. Like the Dream SMP were doing a lot of lore based, character development, storytelling. There was other SMPs doing it as well. We did it here and there in Hermitcraft, but I decided, what, this is my chance. It's kind of an experimental season of Hermitcraft and my chance to kind of dive into that space. So I started to try to include a little bit of lore into my content. And for me, I guess that was one way of pushing the envelope. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, actually season 8 was an experimental season, and we deemed it that because all of us were pushing the envelope in that season and trying to see what we could get away with. Custom textures, certain mods that we would use that weren't in the vanilla game, the way that we designed our communities, having a shorter season and really just trying to like go for it, and see how much we could get done in a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. And still build character development and have new lore added. I think Azuma took on a character that he developed a huge amount of lore around, and both him and I kind of stumbled in that space a little little bit, where it went a little bit too far and kind of got a little cringy and kind of not everybody accepted it. But again,
that's the risk, dude.
Exactly. Yeah. We knew this was experimental, and we wanted the ability to take risks, because even if it did sort of fall flat, there was something to be learned from it. Okay. I pushed it a little too far to where it wasn't desirable. So now I can pull it back, and now I know exactly like where I should land next time. And so this season I've got a little bit of lore behind my character with the dwarven vibe, and living in a mountain, and I'm digging the deep, the keep in the deep, and all this stuff. And there might be a little bit more lore sprinkled in. We have other stuff going on the server, the King's storyline at the moment, and there's some more to come. That is now we've found our way. Mm-hmm. But the only way we would have found our way is if we took that first step. Yeah. Right. And sometimes you stumble. And that's right. And you pick yourself up and you learn from it. Right.
Imagine if this season, instead of doing the dwarf stuff, imagine if you did Willy Wonka again, right? I mean, how stale would that be?
Right.
Then that's just it. So so you took another risk. You made a calculated risk, but the bottom line is that it could have been not well received. So in the world of content creation, you have to do the same thing where you're kind of risking some things. I did a bit on one of my solo Skizz ones a while ago where it was the Skyburger. And I put together a little speaker, like a drive-through. Mm-hmm. And I remember like writing out the script and doing all this stuff. And when I recorded it, I was like, this might, welcome to Skyburger, where our smiles are as tasty as our food. And then I like scripted the back and forth. So I was the patron and I was the worker. And I did the whole modulation with the voice. So it sounded like, like a speaker.
Out the actual speaker, yeah.
And the whole time I'm doing it, I'm all... This might suck. I mean, that's just it. This might be awful. Or I might find it funny and I'm going to release it and somehow it's going to, I don't know, it'll offend somebody or it's going to fall. Like they're going to be like, that was just really stupid. What are you doing? What are these stupid little skits you're doing?
Right.
This is the risk I took, but I wanted to bring another dynamic to my show that to be quite honest, didn't see in a whole lot of Minecraft videos. Yeah. You don't see that type of stuff very often, but I wanted to do it because it was going to sort of make or break me in that moment. It's either going to be like, Skizz is good at this improv stuff or they're good at this, like these little skits that he does, or this dude's a moron. You know what I mean? Or maybe a little both. But I was fine. I was fine with it. I was fine because I was like, I'm too comfortable and I want to push it. I want to make the content something a little bit better. And I think this is going to do it. And I'm not just throwing darts with my eyes closed. This is going to work. You know what I mean? And that's the other thing is that if to make things better, this is a very unpopular phrase of mine. Okay. I'm going to say it. Okay. I'm talking to everybody right now. So listen up. Pause for effect. We've all heard the phrase different is better. I'm telling you here and now, that is crap. That is absolute crap. Different is not better. Better is different. And why I'm saying it like that is because too many people think that just the sheer idea of just doing something different with no thought results in it has better results. That might be the case like 0.01% of the time. But in reality, when you want to make things better, identify what you want to be better about your life and for the people in front of you, right? For the future of mankind. Mm-hmm. Be deliberate about what you're trying to do and then get brave. Right. And that's why I always say people's like, well, different's better. I'm like, no, it's not. Better is different. Like, and like it's to the point to where sometimes different is better like that. And that's just it. Different isn't better. Better is different. And those are very different things. And when you just switch those two words, you'll find yourself in this space to where you get very clear optics on what it is to identify what's better. What are the gems to get there, the milestones to get there. And now you can start marching. And the whole time you have to be at peace with the fact that there might be risk involved and you might be in a worse spot than you were in. But that's what rolling the dice is. Yeah. That is what going forward and being very deliberate about pushing the envelope is. And I think there's I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm willing to bet that at least the people listening to us, probably at least 10% of them are among the crowd that always want to make something better. They want to be a part of what it is to do what you're saying in regards to bring mankind to the next level, or at least play a little piece in that chapter,
Yeah, there's something behind it. Like I was saying before, like when Kennedy gave the speech that we're going to the moon, there was a lot going on in the world at that time. And I think what he saw in that moment was that we needed something to bring us all together for a common cause. and that the idea of tackling something we've never tackled before would do that, would give us hope, would give us reason to come together as, in this case, Americans, and like strive for something together that would like have a bond, right? A commonality between us. And then that way it's bigger than us and we forget about all the other petty stuff. Right. And so that's the kind of thing that I think as we continue this process to push the envelope in future endeavors, like that's what motivates us as a species. So we should continue to do so.
Yeah. And I don't think we're ever going to change. I think that it's going to be, I don't know how much longer mankind's going to be here. I don't know. None of us do. But during our entire journey, it's almost like if there was a book that was just beginning to end of like whenever the end is going to be or whatever, that book would be pretty interesting in regards to all the different improvements we made or whatever. And I talk about, are we going to get past Neptune? And I say, of course we are. So then the question's like, well, what's next? I mean, what is next? And a lot of people are going to say, no, it actually does become impossible at that point because, I mean, we know what a light year is, right? And to think about if we wanted to get to another galaxy or whatever, you hear about millions of light years away. It's like, we haven't even been around for a million years.
Right.
Imagine if we've been traveling the speed of light that whole time. You're like, are we there yet? Or like, not even close.
Who's to say we can't figure out how to travel faster than the speed of light?
Exactly. That, or, I mean, I know, wormholes are in theory, and I get that, but that's, everything was a theory before it was no longer a theory. It's the same energy, right? Yeah. How are we going to do it? I don't know. I don't know, but we're going to find a way. We're going to find a way because we just always do. Yep. We always find that way. And that's something that with all the, many faults that mankind has, there's beauty in mankind that we cannot turn a blind eye to. Mm-hmm. There's something very special about who we are. There's something very dark about who we are too. And it makes me sad. It keeps me up at night, but there's something so magical about who we are. And I look at, I talk all about the time we haven't done it in a while, but because my wife and I have been so busy, but we foster, right? Mm-hmm. Think of, just for a second, just take in the concept of one species, like dedicating its life to helping a completely different species. You might think about that. That's the part of mankind that is just, that's one of the wonderful parts of mankind. Yeah. And I think that our desire to explore and our desire to push the envelope and just get better, no matter how small, it makes us great. And I'm saying to the people listening right now as well, right now, dude, somebody has something going on at work that they know they could make better, but they just kept their mouth shut. They know they can make it better, but they kept their mouth shut for some reason. It's not that they think they know how to do it. They actually know what needs to be done. They know the steps, but for something, maybe they were beat down, or maybe they feel like they've never really had a voice. Mm-hmm. Maybe they tried and it fell on deaf ears. I'm here telling you, go fight for it. Just go do it. Yeah. And this is bad for me to say this, considering I'm just talked about how tired I am or whatever, but go do it. If it's something that's going to make the place better and it is, this is the better is different, and you know how to do it because your experience hasn't. You are squandering your experience. Yeah. You're squandering what the people in front of you need. And because for whatever reason, so just tuck the reasons aside and just go get forceful and get it done and watch what ends up happening. Yeah. Be part of it. The alternative of not doing it and then regretting it the rest of your life is not the better choice. Yeah. Right. So go get it. Wow. We promised an announcement. I think it's about that time in the podcast where we start to wrap up. And so now would be a good chance to tell people. Yeah. So let's get into the reason why we're going to make it, we're pushing the okay, I'll back up. I'll back up. This is a hard one to just jump into. So we pushed the envelope on our Imp And Skizz channel in a way. We tried something new, and we got in the boat without oars. Yeah. Okay. We did. So Imp And Skizz. No regrets, by the way. Yeah. So if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, whatever you're listening on, this may not mean much to you, but to our YouTube audience, we grew a channel on YouTube, the Imp And Skizz channel, to over 100,000 subscribers, which is amazing. We have a silver play button. Thank you guys so much. You're amazing. Yeah.
And we built that channel based off of our Minecraft content together. We did some Skyblock series, we did Naked and Scared series, and some other things. We've tried some random things on the channel as well that has been fun. But the bulk of the channel has been Minecraft up until this point, when we started introducing the video portion of this podcast onto the channel. Now what we're seeing is we're kind of like a video of Minecraft and then a video of a podcast, maybe a couple, and it's kind of like we're sprinkling in different types of content that our subscribers may not all want to see everything of. And, you know, we also have the pressure of the YouTube algorithm not enjoying the fact that some videos get views while other ones don't, and things like that. But also just the main fact that we've kind of divided our content styles on the same platform or same channel. And we were looking at it and we decided that maybe it's time to make a change with how we do that.
So we're gonna go ahead and close the Imp and Skizz channel.
Yeah.
And
we're going to take our silver play button and run. No.
We're kidding. We are going to continue these podcasts, and both audio and video, but we are going to launch a new YouTube channel that's going to be just for these podcasts. Yeah. Now, and I don't regret anything that we did. We took it. We didn't know how we wanted to do this. And our very first one is titled, "How Did We Get Here?" And we started by being like, we don't know what we're doing. Yeah, we're just going to try this. But it took both of us to actually kind of look at like our videos, if you will. And we were like, what are we doing? This is this is such a confusing channel. Yeah. And it sucks that we had to get as far as we did in the podcast to realize, that was oops, but that's okay. Yeah. I'm fine with the oops. I'm not okay with oops and let me oops again. Right. So we're taking a peek at this and we're like, okay, we've learned what we needed to learn. I was worried one of us was going to learn that we don't like doing podcasts. And what I learned is we both really like doing podcasts. Right. So in regards to wanting to continue, that seems to be a no-brainer. We're going to do that. But we are going to do it on a totally different channel that we're going to launch. So he was so new that we don't even know.
I haven't actually officially created the Imp and Skizz podcast channel, and that's what we'll title it, Imp and Skizz Podcast, so you know what you're there for. Yeah, like that's the main thing, is like I didn't want to bait and switch. We didn't want to bait and switch everybody and say, no, this channel's now our podcast channel. So we're gonna go back to having this channel. If you're watching on the YouTube,
gaming only.
This channel is our gaming content. Yeah, we're gonna call it gaming content because we may do more than just Minecraft in the future. And then our new channel, the Imp and Skizz Podcast channel, we'll put a link in the description. It will be there by the time this podcast actually comes out, so you can go check that out. And because I know some of you may not have made it to this part of the video, obviously you're not here and not listening to this anyway, but there will be people that maybe didn't make it. We'll post an announcement on the channel next week when the podcast is supposed to come out. Isn't that so weird? I'm talking to the people not here anymore.
Yeah, to you people not listening to me. Yeah. They're just out there. They're like, I feel weird right now.
What is it? My nose is itching. Somebody must be...
No, your ears are burning.
Ears are burning. There's multiple. There's multiple saves.
Is there?
Yeah. That's a thing too.
I've only heard
depending on where you grew up, maybe. I don't know. Anyway.
my nose is itchy.
That's the thing. I'm telling you, there will be people in the comments that say if your nose itches, that means somebody is thinking about you or something.
You might be right.
Pulling on your earlobes.
Remember this thing, the emote we were talking
about the praying hands.
Yeah. So we looked it up and I said, I think it's two people high-fiving. I said I could be wrong, and then the chat's like, no, it's pray. So I went into my phone and I typed in pray, and this came up. Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. Then I was like, you know what? I typed in the high five. This came up. I'm like, it's both.
Okay. It's both. Well, whether your ears are burning or your nose is itching, make sure you subscribe to the Imp and Skizz podcast channel, linked in the description below. And that's where we'll be posting them from now on. And like I said, we'll put an announcement again next week because I'm sure people will be looking for the podcast and on our normal channel. So we're going to do that. We're going to make a change. We're going to split off and we're going to correct course because that's what you do. Once you get on the boat and you forgot your oars, you go and get an oar.
That's right? What you do. You figure it out. We learned what we needed to learn. We're going to change it over the Imp and Skizz podcast channel. And then maybe we'll even have another one after that in the future.
Yeah,
we talked about Imp and Skizz IRL.
Imp and Skizz IRL. Yeah. We actually have a document with like what we would do if we ever get this like time to do an Imp and Skizz IRL, and there's some really crazy fun ideas that we want to do. Yeah. And Yeah, hopefully we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. But it's baby steps, right? And so I know I really leaned into the different isn't better, better's different. We learned what we needed to learn. We learned what we needed to learn. We know what will make this better in the long run, and it's going to hurt. This is going to hurt, man.
Yeah.
Starting a new channel, that believe me, for anybody who thinks like they just want to have a lot of channels, somebody's got to be thinking that. No, we don't. Yeah. This kind of sucks. But
we want to decorate the entire wall with silver play buttons. That's our whole goal. So no.
Is that normal? That's everybody's.
No, we want to make sure that people are subscribing for what they expect.
Yes.
And in this case, there are a lot of subscribers here on the Imp And Skizz channel expect our Minecraft or gaming content, and we threw in something else. Yeah. And they're like, what is this?
What is this?
So yeah, when you go to the Imp And Skizz podcast channel, you're going to get Imp And Skizz podcast, and you know what you're getting into. And I would love it if you guys came over. Yeah. Hope we don't lose you. And come
with us. Yeah. We got more podcasts.
We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. So lots more ideas. The next ones, we've already got our next one planned. I'm not going to change my t-shirt. But,
no, I'm not going to change my shirt either. I might roll this up one more sleeve.
No, I have a plan. I'm going to put a hat on.
There you go.
At least look different.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it'll be, the next one should be on the new channel.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Ooh, new channel, new look.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We got to move all of these over.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Logistics. I'll figure it out. All right, guys. Thanks again for joining us. Another fun podcast. We'll see you guys on the new channel next week.